AI is the best learning technology invented in human history, better than the book. Because when it spends 10 minutes doing the compute, that's the equivalent of what a human might do in a month in a library. Yeah. So like people who opine on AI and haven't used it, how do you find yourself to be credible? You can be very smart and it still doesn't work.
What about when you go to the French President Macron meeting?
Part of why I'm here is how do I help France, right? How do I help the French tech industry, the French AI industry?
And what about him? Does he know how to use that and how it works and what is going to happen?
To Macron's credit, in my experience with world leaders, he is the best, most thoughtful, and most knowledgeable about AI. In every world leader that I have talked to, Trump and the administration is trying to create an environment of fear where what they mean by free speech is speech that they agree with and not others.
Have you ever been asked to just shut up?
The times where it's easy to speak truth, it doesn't matter as much. The times where you feel fear of retaliation, oppression, etc., it's all the more important to do it. That's actually, in fact, what freedom of speech means.
Are you the messenger of Silicon Valley?
I am a messenger of optimism.
Don't worry, yeah. So I was saying, I'm pretty sure I have at least one of your books, which is Blitzscaling.
Yes.
Somewhere, but I can't find it in my studio. So I wanted you to sign it, but
we will get you new ones and signed ones.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. One of each then.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Let's be generous.
Yes.
C'est bon?
Yeah.
So how is your French actually?
Un petit peu.
Un petit peu. Yeah. So you had to speak in English with the president.
Yes, always. But his English is very good, so you know, it worked.
So I'm so honored. First of all.
Yeah.
Let's check. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yes.
Second time in 1 year.
Yes.
I mean, next time we're going to drink beers.
Yes, excellent.
But
only French beer.
Yeah, okay. I'll get you some good ones.
Yes.
Plus, I mean, as I understand, you had 2 meetings in Paris.
Yes.
One was at the Elysium Palace and one at the Génération do-it-yourself studio. So it's pretty cool.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
Anytime you want to come around. You know.
Well, those were the 2 important meetings. So, you know.
Reid, we met for the first time, what was that, like 7 months ago?
Yes.
And when I was thinking about that and listening to what we said, that, it was at the AI Summit,
yes.
I thought, wow, those 7 months, they look like 7 years.
Or longer.
Insane.
Or
yeah,
longer,
insane. Yeah. So many things happen. I mean, I'm thinking about AI, politics. I mean, it's like another world. I want to talk about all of those topics. I've discovered so much about you also on your podcast and YouTube channel. So many things to talk about. But first of all, I want to understand, you're going to release your content soon in French?
Yes, exactly. Even though un petit peu français myself. And so, but one of the things we realized in the AI revolution, and as part of what we do with Super Agency, the book, and all the rest, and the Possible podcast and Reid Riffs, is AI is enablement of human connection. Yeah. And so what we realized is we could release Reid Riffs in French using AI. Now, well, of course, we're making sure that humans are, you know, kind of making sure the translation's right and all the rest. And the earliest version, you know, some of our French friends said, this sounds like Canadian French. And we're like, okay, we're fixing it.
Sometimes it does, yeah.
We're fixing it. But, you know, in late October, it'll be released on a weekly cadence. It'll be both RA and I speaking French through the audio of 11 Labs. It'll be audio only. And it will be the same content that we do in the rest of the world, kind of globally. But as part of showing how AI can create, you know, kind of human connectivity to be able to, because people always resonate more with things that are in their native language. And we thought, okay, this is our chance to show how AI can do this.
It's very interesting. We started doing translations.
Oh, and then also it'll be on possible.fm Reid Riffs.
And so, yeah, you have Reid Riffs and Possible. Yes. It's the same thing. Everything is on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
At first, I think those maybe will not be on your YouTube channel. But
no, audio only.
Audio.
We will, of course, with Reid AI, eventually get to, my video, Reid AI, speaking French too, but since, un petit peu myself.
So, and what's the difference between Reid Riff and Possible?
So Reid Riffs runs on Possible, but it's Aria interviewing me on anything from a combination of reflecting on some of our episodes, whether it's Stephen Colbert or Trevor Noah or other folks.
Bill Gates, I've seen it.
Bill Gates, yes, exactly. And also sometimes questions of the day, right? Like, oh, we see this thing happening with H-1B visas, or we see this thing happening with, DeepSeek as a model, or we see this thing happening. And so I then, because when I'm interviewing, I'm trying to get the magic of the other person. I'm not trying to put my own, point of view in. This is where I can go, well, and here's what I think.
Oh, interesting. And you had actually a Masters of Scale in the past, a podcast, right?
Yes, and that's still running as well. And I still occasionally go on it. I helped launch it for a number of years. It's scale entrepreneurship. And we're doing the summit in a couple of weeks in San Francisco. And it's because, part of what I want as many places to benefit, especially all throughout Europe, of the lessons from Silicon Valley about how do you build technologies, how do you build technology companies of the future. And one of the things that is your technology only really matters when you get to scale. And so that scale, that global scale aspiration is the only thing that really drives it.
Why is that? Why does it only matter when you can scale?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, of course, the impact is the number of people, the depth of impact over time. So X times Y times Z. So that is your impact. Two is the economics of the technology industry is usually there's a lot of cost in building a piece of technology. So people are talking, for example, a lot these days about how much it costs to train an AI system. But by the way, they get overly wrapped around the axle. Like even if it costs you $60 billion to build a computer that you run a training run that might cost you $1 billion or $2 billion to run, then you've got a piece of software that if it literally only elevated every industry, every individual's competence 1% in the world, it pays off massively, right? Even less than that. And so that scale of when you're building the technology and being able to invest in it really, really matters. And that's part of the reason why the Masters of Scale podcast, Blitzscaling the book, part of the reason why, kind of when we're trying to get people to imagine what's positively possible, you want that at scale.
Interesting. When you see actually right now, you said expanding or showing what's happening in the Valley and how it's happening. Actually, I was talking last week with a friend of mine. I mean, it's second time like you, but it took him probably 3 years before coming back on Génération, it yourself, Grégoire Gambato. And he's a French entrepreneur. He moved to the Valley and he was telling us, I mean, the difference is insane in between the Valley and the rest of the world. Do you agree?
Yes, although there's an asterisk about China. So the two areas that understand blitzscaling the best in the world are Silicon Valley and China. And that's part of the reason why I come to Europe to try to help with this, because we want European values, European ingenuity, European creativity. There's a huge amount of talent and brain power here to be deployed, but you have to understand how to build the businesses at scale. And in Silicon Valley, it's always a lesson in speed to scale, hence blitzscaling. And most of the folks outside of the Valley, other than China, simply don't understand how intense and how fast that game is. Where they go, wait, you're building a $60 billion computer and you don't yet know the business model that you're fully going to be using doing it. Are you insane? Is the usual. And the answer is, no, we know how these games work. And we have enough, like all the people who think that there won't be many interesting business models with AI simply lack knowledge and imagination. It is certainly going to be there.
It worked with Google, it worked with Facebook and Instagram, it worked with LinkedIn somehow. You didn't know how to monetize it at first, right? And it's going to work with the OpenAI and so on.
Yes, and just keep going down all of these internet companies, all of these software companies. That's how it works.
Well, maybe I could have hundreds or thousands of examples where it didn't work.
Oh no,
but
some
still.
fail. Some fail. That's
Majority.
The nature, yes, that's the nature of entrepreneurship. But on the other hand, you create companies where, like, just take Google. Google has it's 7 products that have over 1 billion daily active users each. Right?
7 products.
Yes.
Okay.
With over 1 billion daily active users each.
So I'm thinking about Gmail,
Yep.
Google, obviously. What
YouTube.
else? YouTube, yeah, definitely, of course,
You just keep going.
No, actually, the cloud services are not into that. Okay.
No.
What do you have then?
Oh, so you got YouTube. I don't think Google Docs is it.
Drive.
But Drive I think is Android.
Yeah, definitely Android.
Right. So anyway,
Photos, that's quite a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yes. Very interesting. And so when you're saying we want to help Europe doing this,
yes.
Who is we?
And by the way, Google didn't exist in 1990.
Yeah.
Right. So that's speed to scale. Like that's the.
Yeah, and I remember even in 2000, the year 2000, it was very small, and it was we were all on Yahoo, and couldn't think that it would work at some point. It's interesting, and it's a bit challenged now also by AI, at least for the search part. Yeah,
well, this is the thing that people don't realize about. They go, it's dominant, doesn't have competition. New technology waves create competition. So, for example, anyone who starts using, ChatGPT, Copilot, Anthropic, even Gemini at Google, they use search less because it's perfect. I myself have known that. Like, for example, whereas I would have started a kind of a train of thought, like when I have a new idea of something that I want to examine, no longer, or very rarely, call it 5-10%, do I start with search. Yeah. Do I start with Google? I almost always start with ChatGPT or Claude or another. And I do that because it's like, okay, I have this thought. Okay, let me get the prompt going. Like, I think in terms of the prompt first to kick off my thinking.
Yeah, very interesting. Though it's, I don't remember. Do you have kids?
No.
No, okay. I was talking to my daughter yesterday, and she was working on her how do you say, work, like homework, and with a friend. And she was searching through ChatGPT too fast. Really doing the job with ChatGPT. And I was like, I believe you should just try to search first, try to get all of the elements and maybe think at some point.
Well, but actually, so this is one of the other, there's many misconceptions about AI. We talked about a little bit the business model, another one's energy and climate, but on education. Yes, as the transition goes and as teachers and assessment doesn't know how to use AI, it's easier for someone to kind of proxy their own thinking. We're all naturally a little bit lazy and say, oh, I just create this and I don't have to think through it. But actually, AI is the best learning technology invented in human 100%. History, better than the book. Now, it's based off, we had to have the book in order to get here. So the question is actually, in fact, how you end up thinking. Now, for example, on an AI agent, if you just put in the prompt, meta prompt, to say, don't give me the answer, walk me to the answer, then all of a sudden you have the best interactive tutor available 24/7 to everybody, whether you're a 2-year-old, a 70-year-old, everything. And so that's part of how the thinking goes. And actually, I have found that it makes my thinking crisper for a couple reasons. So one is I have an idea and then I go, oh, right, I missed these, 1, 2, and 3 when I do, but I also use AI to critique my ideas.
Yeah.
So I say, well, I've got this idea of blitzscaling and how the fact that, the companies and the industries and the countries that then define the technological future of societies and of the human race are the ones that get to scale and first in terms of making that scale deployment, the scale business model work. Well, then I can go to AI and say, critique the idea. What have I missed? What is wrong about this idea? What are counterexamples, et cetera, and it can make your thinking better.
And what technique, what methods would you give us to go there? How do you do that?
Oh, it's very straightforward. I put in my thing. So like, for example, when I was writing Super Agency, I'd put in the chapter and I'd say, okay, critique this. And by the way, you can even get specific. Critique it from a well-versed historian of technology. Critique it from a global perspective. Critique it from a, you know.
Your Boston Consulting Group top senior executive. Just okay, yeah.
Critique it from the way that people would critique Silicon Valley, right? What are the critiques? And then you can listen to all of them and decide which of them, you watch them, listen to them, and read them, and decide which of them you need to include, right? And how it makes your own thinking sharper.
Very interesting. Did you change your parameters in ChatGPT the way you want it to talk to you? Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Right, and part of it is like, for example, like there was 1, 2, or 3 week thing. Oh, it's too sycophantic. It's too. You can simply put it in there. Like, for example, one of the classic meta prompt things is be brutally honest.
Yeah, I did that.
Yes, and if you put be brutally honest, then all of a sudden it's not as sycophantic anymore.
I know.
So it's a choice.
Yeah, hello Matthieu, how are you doing today? No, I don't want that. Yeah, no smileys and no, yeah, interesting. When do you get time to do that? How long? How much do you use it? I mean,
so I probably use chatbots maybe 20 times a day, and I probably do deep research at least 5 to 10. Which is if people haven't explored the deep research function, they should. And it's one of the things that gives you citations, researchers across the web. It still doesn't mean it doesn't hallucinate, make errors. So do humans, of course. Yeah. But this one also delivers a reply within 10 minutes. And by the way, another prompting thing is it gives you something and you just go, make this better. Literally, you can just get a response to make this better. And then it will do another return where it's critiquing itself to make it better, just even on that. And so I'll do that as well. But it's, it's like when I was taking the car over here from the hotel, like that's the kind of time that I will pull up my laptop and go, oh, I was thinking about this. Let me start the deep research query going. And then, because, deep research query, I almost always use the think long, because I'm actually almost anything I'm interested in reading, I'm interested in the most detailed possible answers. So it's like, the thinking mode in GPT-5, the deep think in Gemini.
Is it much, much better?
So it's never worse. And sometimes it's the same. But on the other hand, when it is better, it's important to see it. And it is frequently better. Because when it spends 10 minutes doing the compute, that's like the equivalent of, kind of call it what a human might do in a month in a library.
Insane.
Yes.
What are your most important, most fascinating findings recently with AI on your own work, I would say?
So my own work. There's a whole bunch of stuff, coding assistants. We'll undoubtedly get into
You're
those.
Still coding?
No. In terms of what's happening in the field. Although I have been, it's on my list for at the latest when I have a holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, to do a little bit of vibe coding. Because part of what I think everyone needs to do is in order to actually see the future, you have to engage with it.
I'm 100%, right. 100%. Yeah.
So like people who opine on AI and haven't used it, you're like, how do you find yourself to be credible, right? They're like, oh, I'm smart. Well, yes, you're smart, but you're like a person who rides a horse opining on cars, having never gotten into one. You can be very smart and it still doesn't work, right? And so like, because there's this enormous acceleration happening in coding, I'm like, okay, I need to go do I haven't done it in a couple decades, but I need to go do a little bit of vibe coding and other kinds of things. But for my own personal work, it'll be things like I'll have an idea. The idea might be, kind of something around, it could range anything from art to psychology to business and entrepreneurship to deployment of technology to, like one of the things that over the last week, I spent a few days in New York. Part of the reason, because as you know, I co-founded a company called Manus AI, which is, trying to accelerate the creation of drugs to cure cancer. And so I spent time with them kind of thinking about like, okay, what are techniques we could do? And by the way, AI is useful as like, okay, which of these model techniques have been deployed in the industry so far in order to create understanding of biological substrate, what kinds of targets for cancer, what kinds of biologics might actually make a difference for cancer? What is the current state of the art in creation of small molecules? And obviously, you're talking to experts too. But part of it, when you say, okay, what's been published or written about in every single scientific journal in the last month?
Is it efficient, really?
Oh, very.
Yeah.
Right. But you say, like, in the last month, what are all, like, for example, this query I ran last week, what are all of the most relevant articles in scientific journals on the use of AI models for understanding, kind of diseases and drug therapies?
Any language, any country.
Yes. Oh, because by the way, translation, just stick it in.
Yeah.
And this gets back to the learning thing. Like, for example, most people don't understand quantum computing at all, right? They don't even understand quantum mechanics. Well, if you literally go to an agent and say, explain to me, any frontier agent, explain to me quantum mechanics like I'm 12, it will then do that. You can then say, explain quantum mechanics to me like I'm 18. It will then do that. Explain it like I'm a professor. It will do that. And by the way, looking at the sequence of explanations then helps you learn and understand it.
Like half an hour after, you'll be like one of the top experts in the world, probably.
Maybe not that, but at least now you'll understand it, right? As opposed to just the word.
What about when you go to the French President Macron meeting?
My warm-up meeting for our podcast, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Do you prepare it on AI, and do you digest it with AI afterwards? Any use of these technologies?
I certainly will do it on preparation. So, for example, part of why I'm here, part of why Macron asked me to meet with him, part of the reason I'm in is how do I help France? Right? How do I help the French tech industry, the French AI industry? And so what I did last night, having flown into Paris and arriving just in time for dinner, was I said, okay, give me the current state of the AI companies, Mistral, et cetera. What's the current dialogue happening here? Because it gives me a sense of what environment I'm coming into and how to provide advice. And so I would do that. Now, frequently, when I'm doing meetings, I'll record them and then use AI to debrief. But of course, recording your discussion with the president is, maybe we're not there yet. So that won't happen in this particular case.
And what about him? Or I could go about, because you say I use it 20 times a day. Yeah. And I believe, most of those guys, they don't even write emails or use any kind of technology anymore. Probably they do a quick search, but does he know how to use that and how it works and what is going to happen?
Well,
because also there is a lot of confidential stuff and so on. So.
Yes. Well, to Macron's credit, in my experience with world leaders, he is the best, most thoughtful, and most knowledgeable about AI in every world leader that I have talked to about this. Yes. He's been on it for years. I've been coming into town. Matter of fact, I first met him when he was a minister. I wasn't president. When he came to Silicon Valley to understand, because he's got curiosity. He's like, how do I help France? And how do I help learn from here in ways to help France?
So it's not just facade, like a lot of politics.
No, exactly. Okay. And that was literally, I think there's somewhere is the selfie that Macron took of the two of us when he was a minister and he was visiting in Silicon Valley. And now I always have like the people who come and say, I want to learn how to help my country. When I love the country, I always try to help. And that was when I started. And so when he became president and was like, okay, how do I do this? I was like, look, whatever advice I can give and whatever I can do. Now, I haven't yet had the opportunity to do this with Macron, but I have done this with at least 4 of his ministers, which is one of the things that I do is I say, okay, let's open up the computer. Let's do some AI prompting so I can show you. Now, of course, we don't do it on confidential things. We don't do it on anything that involves confidential data or anything else. But you can start showing how to do the thinking of it. Like, for example, say, well, you're trying to research what are the current techniques that are going on in AI that Silicon Valley companies are deploying, and to understand what the the compute costs of those are, what the integration of data, what the business models are. And so I started showing us, like, here is how you can do the deep research query. And by the way, part of it is you do a 2-pass, kind of query. Like, first you do either by voice. There's a lot of use in voice for these things. Yeah. First you go by voice or by typing, and you write essentially what is a paragraph. But the paragraph you're asking for it is, write me the deep research prompt that I can then run. And so then it gives you a 2-page prompt, which you then read through, and you change some of it, add a little bit. Oh, it gives me an idea. Yeah, let's add this bullet point. And then you run that. And that was the kind of thing that I show people, like, this is how you start using it in depth and effectively. Do
you believe they use it afterwards again and 100%. Again? Yeah.
Because you can tell, because they start asking questions. They start saying, hey, I was trying this and it wasn't that good. Like, how do you navigate that? And sometimes the answer is, well, no, it's not that good at that yet. Every month AI improves. And other times, like, oh, no. What you need to do, like, for example, just critique my idea, sometimes not good enough. It's kind of generic. It'll say, for example, like if I put in a piece of my own writing and I say, critique this idea, a frequent thing is people will say, well, there's a lot of people who are skeptical of Silicon Valley, and they'll be skeptical of you because you're the messenger of Silicon Valley. It's like, okay, I know that doesn't help me. But that's the reason, like, when I was writing Super Agency, I would say, critique it from a deeply knowledgeable historian of technology.
Are you the messenger of Silicon Valley?
Well, I don't think anyone is the messenger of Silicon Valley. I do think that I am a messenger of optimism, and it's rational optimism. It's not blind optimism. It's not that there won't be problems and challenges and other things as we're doing it, but it's a message of optimism is necessary, because it's the only way you get to a future that you want is through steering towards it. You don't get to the future you want by trying to avoid the futures you don't want. That's not the way. It's like, for example, if you were trying to plan a drive from here in Paris to Lyon, and you say, okay, I need to eliminate everything that could possibly go wrong before I start, you're never going to get to Lyon, right? So that sort of thing. And so I'm one of the voices of Silicon Valley. One of the things I think is interesting is there's multiple, some of which I disagree with, some of which I disagree with intensely, and others which I respect but are different than my own.
We'll get to that. I think it's interesting. But before that, do you agree if I say that now, like today, in 2025, on battlefields, armies use AI to plan their attacks, defense, all of their plans, right? That's true, isn't it? With Palantir and all of these.
Well, they frankly, they should, but most militaries, other than obviously the ones in Ukraine, which are engaged, most militaries that are not engaged in a conflict tend to be prepping for last century's battle, last decade's battle. It is, and by the way, if you go to the militaries and say, why are you using it? They say, well, confidential, hallucination, isn't the way that we're operationalized. And actually, in fact, every organization, whether it's military, a government, a corporation, et cetera, should be exploring it, learning it. But right now, I think the probably primary place where it's deployed is probably what is known as intelligence or signal intelligence, which, by the way, is good as long as you have humans in the loop.
Because my question would have been, if you said yes, but you didn't say exactly yes yet, is that, don't you think that governments, should use AI to govern? That's a bit scary, but still, maybe it could be efficient. You were saying that 10 minutes would be 1 month work. Right now in France, we have a lot of problems. It's the same everywhere, it seems. And do you think they do use AI, or nobody uses AI in governments?
It's still very limited. Part of the, a bunch of the, in the 2-hour meeting that, I had with Macron, a bunch of different subjects came up, but one of the ones that he was asking about was, how do I help French people better? Like, what are the things in terms of deploying AI as a public service? What are the things that I can do there? And so one of the things that I pointed out to him, that some of the smaller countries have started doing things like, well, how do we use AI to accelerate like permitting process? Like you do construction and something else. Well, frequently it takes months of cycling, just lots of wasted effort. You could actually get permitting processes done in hours and in days. Now, what you do is you don't just go, oh, we let the AI do it and we just, we sit back, drink some red wine, et cetera. No. What you do is you say, look, the AI is doing it, but we have human checkpoints. You have humans reviewing it. But for example, when the permit comes in, there's first a cycle where it's like, oh, well, this doesn't meet, you need this information. This is a regulation that you have a question on, and you cycle very quickly. Then it gets to kind of the government process, where the government process does an analysis, analyzes against all of its data, but then presents it to the government official.
That would work with justice.
Well, actually, it can, but again, you have a human in the loop, right? It's just information processing. It's like having an assistant, and that's a good way of looking at a lot of and I understand everywhere outside of Silicon Valley, even in the US, and of course, especially here in Europe, this can sound a little alarming to people, but actually I think it's amazing, is in a small number of years, we won't do any work. We won't be doing this podcast without having AI agents like we deploy with a group of agents around us. And like you and I would have a tablet here where it's saying, oh, don't forget to bring up this point, or, oh, ask Reid this question of this thing he's done. And it'll still be us doing this, but we will be deploying with a set of agents in terms of how we operate.
To make it better. But you know what? I mean, Reid, so I started this podcast like 7-8 years ago. And the only part of the podcast where we don't use AI that much is right now. But before and after, it has changed like so much in like a year, 18 months, 2 years. I mean, it's insane preparation. And then after, right when we're done, we'll send it in the cloud and then have a transcript. And then this transcript will help us to cut and do the stories, reels for the social networks. It's amazing.
Yeah. And by the way, just like we're doing with Reid Riffs, right, putting that from Possible Podcasts in French, you can now go to many languages. That's another, it's just all of this.
You'll be translated in French anyway.
Exactly. But if it works, every major language.
Every major language. Well, every minor language too. También, I was about to say.
Yes. Although that's also a major language.
It's a bit scary because, I mean, I believe it would help a lot. It does help me a lot. Like I'm doing a huge investment on my part for like real estate investment. And then we do everything with AI. And you were talking about, I mean, permission. I was saying maybe justice. And then I'm thinking about like so many places. But it scares me because of, a machine saying like sentencing, maybe human. And you're like, wow, this is scary. But also maybe this part is sovereignty. I know you're a lot about sovereignty. There is a big thing happening right now in between, I mean, in the world, I would say, and in between the US and Europe. I feel like last time we met, we were very close with American, and now we're not that close anymore. I mean, we don't feel like enemies, but we feel like real competitors. And maybe we've always been competitors, but probably European countries have been a bit naive about that. But how do you feel about this? What's your thoughts?
Well, I think the world is a lot better when Europe and the US are in intense alliance, dialogue, etc. Because I think there's a lot in many centuries that, or at least two, my country's 250 years old, that we can learn from each other. And most Americans don't know this, but of course, the American Revolution was greatly helped by French, right? It was Lafayette, right? And it's one of the reasons why, kind of recently I've also helped participate in creating these Lafayette scholarships.
Probably because it was also against English.
Yes, yes, yes. Well,
it's part of the deal.
It's part of the deal. But literally, since the very founding of the U.S.,
100%,
there has been important alliances, help. And by the way, in 250 years ago, that help flowed from France to us, right? It was desperate and very, very essential. Now, I want to stay there. I want to keep to it as much as we can. And, I find occasionally I have to apologize for my modern country because, these problems are greatly, because of us, because of how we're changing and how we are not treating our friends as well as we should, and our allies. And I think that's, something that I think, it's a turbulent time, but I remain optimistic of trying to get back to a productive and actually friendship and alliance. But there will be troubled waters. And I do think that it's, frankly, when you have an administration that goes out and postures, threatens tariffs, other kinds of things, and as opposed to working as partners, it's a natural stance for here. I do think there's a lot of us, in the tech industry in the U.S. who go, well, look, actually, in fact, we're better off when we're approaching these issues from a standpoint of humanity, namely multiple societies and collaborating on those. And I think that maintains. So despite the fact that you get, a lot of bad, American uber alles kind of political speeches, there's still a lot of us, Americans who deeply love the U.S., but also deeply love the friendships with European countries and others.
Does the expression "walking on eggs" work in English?
Yes, it does. That expression works exactly. Usually, you're breaking the eggs. But yes.
Are you walking on eggs? I mean, is it scary for you to talk loud about this? I mean, I see you. I don't think it's French, but your tech bros. I mean, yes. You are part of the PayPal mafia, and all of those. Those guys on September 4th at the in the Oval. No, it wasn't in the Oval Office, but at the White House. I mean, this to me, I don't know to you, but this was so awkward. I saw them. I was like, oh my God. I mean, yes. Are they really behaving like this with Donald Trump? But there is no choice. It seems there is no choice. Their companies are too big. And if they don't do that, he will go after them. Yeah. What about you? And how does it feel for you? And can you break a few eggs, maybe?
Well, Trump and the administration is trying to create an environment of fear where what they mean by free speech is speech that they agree with and not others. Yeah. And they are doing various things to try to advance that climate of fear. The fact is you put in a personal defense attorney who has no experience with prosecution, and that attorney submits an indictment of James Comey, former FBI director, crossing political boundaries, that doesn't even understand her own writing, doesn't understand the argument. She might have used AI.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. She did on ChatGPT. And those are 12 years old.
Yes, exactly. And those are all moves for fear. And so there is, unfortunately, a lot of fear. I mean, I get a lot of commentary because I am willing to speak my mind. I get a lot of other people saying, oh, I'm really glad you're doing that because I feel like I can't, right? And I think that's, it's important for all of us to do. So part of when people ask me, it's like, well, you should as well, right? Because it's important, like the times where it's easy to speak truth, it doesn't matter as much. The times where you feel fear of retaliation, oppression, et cetera, it's all the more important to do it. That's actually, in fact, what freedom of speech means. That's what, trying to kind of help us live in truth, what that means. And I think that's really critical important. So yes, I continue to do it, but of course it creates anxiety. Just recently, last week, President Trump, when he was explaining the executive order on Antifa, which, by the way, as far as I understand, isn't a group that exists. It's a kind of a fiction being used. I mean, yes, there's probably some idiots in the world who go, I'm Antifa, whoever those idiots are. I've never met one to my knowledge. And is doing that and was explaining, well, who might you be going after? And he said, Alex Soros of the Open Society Foundation. He also said me. And I was like, okay, like I literally have never, I do think, by the way, the name Antifa, like I think being opposed to fascism is a good thing, right? That's actually, in fact, what I think Western democracy, centuries, personal liberty, if you're a libertarian, like, yes, you should be opposed to fascism. That's actually the thing. But I've never actually, in fact, had any involvement in this whatsoever. And so moving to a White House where you have a president calling out political opponents as the examples of how they're planning to investigate on executive orders is obviously a very anti-democracy move, anti the kind of thing that America stands for. And I think that's that's sad, and that's what creates a lot of fear in people.
Do you believe that, if you're in their position, those guys leading those companies, I'm thinking about, Sergey Brin, I don't know, who was there, Mark Zuckerberg, they don't have no choice. Do they have a choice? If you were at one of their, let's not put a name of one of them, but in one of their companies, do you have to be at that dinner? Do you have to pledge? Do you have to be a kind of a disciple of Donald Trump?
Unfortunately, it's not a simple answer, because I do think that it's important that Donald Trump was elected in a democracy. I do think that companies and individuals should be responsive to a democratically elected government. So say you're invited, should you go? Yes. And so I think you have to engage, because it's part of being responsible to your society. But then the question comes down to is, okay, well, when you're at the table, what do you say and what do you not say? I think that, there were some hyperbolic statements made, and everyone, the fact is you should view that it's a bad thing that you feel that you have to go around going, Donald Trump, you're the best president ever. Everything was broken before you took office January 20th, and magically January 21st, it was made amazing. And I think anybody with integrity and ethics and watching that goes, that's wrong, right? That's not the society we should be. That's not that, that kind of, basically lying and catering your ego. You don't have to do that. You shouldn't do that. That's not the way you should operate, whoever you are. You But you should, for example, like say, hey, I'm in someone, I want to know what I'm investing in to help the country. You should speak honestly to that. I think that's a good thing to do. I think some of the people at that event did. I think some did not. I think in the notion of civility, I will let our listeners figure out which are the ones for themselves. But
there's a big difference in between Tim Cook and Mark Zuckerberg. Yes. That's me talking, not you.
Yes. So, but some stated honestly and were reflected their public filings of public companies for how they're investing and what they're doing, and others, were looking for numbers that would make Trump feel good.
People have told me you should be, you should be cautious, careful about what you're saying publicly, even as a French podcaster, because the next time you want to go to the US, maybe you'll get some trouble. Oh. Do you believe there is a world where this can happen, and where, have you ever been asked to just shut up, or can I have some trouble at some point?
Well, so unfortunately, there's a big difference between how US treats US citizens and non-US citizens. It's already started happening, by which US issuing of visas, allowing people to come in, it's well publicized around students, that if you say something critical of the administration, your visa may be revoked or denied. I find this to be extraordinarily un-American.
AI might be useful in that case, actually. Yeah.
Yes. Well, AI can help good people do things. AI can help bad people do things. It's it's one of the natures of technology. And so, as a French citizen, yes, it's a relevant issue, and I on behalf of Americans who believe in the Constitution and believe in democracy, I apologize, right? And so now for American citizens, it's trickier, and I have thus far not encountered that other than having kind of public, this recent public declaration of, oh, well, maybe we're going to investigate, et cetera, et cetera. And part of the reason, like I got a whole bunch of feedback from my friends. Oh, stop talking about, the government, because, this is like, they're going to use the instruments of the government for political persecution. And I was like, well, but then that allows fascism to reign. So I think it's actually important for everyone, in that circumstance, to actually, in fact, speak up, right? And so but so far, other than everything that the public sees, I haven't encountered any trouble yet.
Have you ever thought of leaving the country? Does any of your friends have?
Well, I won't name them, but some of my friends have left the country and gone to various other countries. I have not. My home is still, in the U.S. But it's obviously when you look at the kinds of statements of threats, like you have ICE, in masks pulling people into vans, you go, this is not a good look, right? This is not the way that we should operate. We should operate with, part of the reason why police officers, kind of wear a badge, wear a uniform, have their faces, it's like, so we're accountable for what we're doing. I think it's really important for the good ordering of a democracy to have legal process for how you operate on things, right? It's part of the reason why we have 3 branches of the government, including a judiciary. And I think anybody who loves America wants the 3 branches. That's part of what we do, and I think that's very important.
I'd say to I don't know if it's just French people, or I'd say Europe. The most fascinating thing recently was the freedom of speech. I mean, was it Jimmy Kimmel?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, when you see that, and he's in a private company, you're like, I mean, wow. Yeah. Is this really happening? I mean, is this China? Is this, I don't know.
Well, it's actually some of the actions of the Trump administration are much more like Maoist China, not even current China,
and
Maoist
they're not
China.
even hiding. I mean, they're saying we put pressure. We're happy about that.
Yeah.
We're like,
so Jimmy Kimmel asked the question of saying, we're really trying to understand what the actual motivations of the murderer of Charlie Kirk, which is a huge tragedy, should never have happened, what the actual motivations are. Ask the question. Then the FCC chairman says, well, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. It's like, what is it, your mafia boss? FCC mafia boss is the thing. And then, of course, with pressure from that, there is, Jimmy Kimmel's is cut off the air. And the reason why Kimmel's back is because everyone spoke up, including some folks on the right saying, this is wrong, right? He didn't say anything, but he raised the question. You may have disagreed, but said, no, I think it's obvious, but raising a question is the beginnings of free speech. It's the basic part of free speech. And it wasn't dishonoring, Charlie Kirk. It wasn't not articulating that it was a tragedy that we wish we did not have.
It was, yeah.
It was just asking a question.
Interesting point from Clémence. She's saying journalists have also been fired from France Inter. It's a French radio station for similar reasons. She's thinking about a humorist called Guillaume Meurice. But at the end, I'm not saying it's better, but it's at least a national. It's like NPR, right? Yes. So it shouldn't happen, but it's a bit different. I mean, and it might be even easier on private companies because the tight link now with the private and the public and the administration is what makes me hallucinate most, I would say.
Well, one of the many things that's deeply, enraging and also fear-inducing is you have all these people say, well, we're doing this because of freedom of speech, but they're out there canceling other people's speech. And it's like, like honesty out the window, integrity out the window. It's appalling.
The freedom of speech, I would say, actually is probably, France is probably the most advanced in that. What we do and what we see at Charlie Hebdo and everywhere makes people uncomfortable all around the world. You can, go very far, but I believe it's very, very important. But
it's one of the many things I love about France.
You know what, Reid? I'm very happy that we've been able to talk, and maybe I'll have some other question about that freely. Most of the time, and I would say most of the time with American people coming on that podcast, there are some fields that you're asked not to talk about too much, and this includes mostly political issues. And I'm happy that you're okay. And there were no fields we were not allowed to talk about. So thanks for that.
Of course,
it's very interesting. Let's get back to the AI and what you're seeing right now, because when I talk to American people from the Valley, where are you based right now, actually?
I'm based in Seattle.
Seattle, okay. Yes. I want to go to Seattle, absolutely. I'll go to Seattle.
It's a very nice city.
Right. If I'm allowed to.
Yes, yes. No, I will. We hope after this podcast, who knows?
No, I will be. I'm not that critical, but what has changed within the last 6 months? What are your investments going to? What are the big fields? What is not working also? That's interesting to me.
So, one of the things that's less interesting about the not working is not working yet is frequently one of the answers in technology. And so it happens to not be working this month, but maybe 6 months from now it'll be working. So it's a little always cautious on that. Now, one of the things that is working is there's a massive acceleration in coding assistance.
Yeah.
And, and this is one of the places where like academia does not understand actually all of the amazing work and developments happening in industry, because like some academics did some research from MIT, did some research, which is a great institution, did some research on, a lot of these initial trials and enterprises are failing on this stuff. And you're like, yeah, you went and looked at like 3 people doing some research project in a company, didn't work. Every single startup is using AI coding acceleration. Many different tech companies are using AI coding acceleration. And the reason why it's not just, it's not just like coders are getting better. There's reasons to track this. So one is, if you think software is changing the world, and eventually what we're going to have is we're going to have intelligence at the price of electricity.
Yeah.
These headphones will be intelligent. The mic will be intelligent. The camera will be intelligent. The lights will be intelligent. The heating system will be intelligent, just at the price of electricity everywhere. Well, now, once you begin to have that, you'll have that software acceleration of everything in the world.
Can you let me put it another way? Because I think a lot of people don't understand when you say, if you think software is changing the world, they're like, right, tech dudes. They're tired about that. But let me, it could be something like with those headphones, even with the chip, but I don't know if we should go that far. My brain can go from 130, 140, maybe IQ, I don't know, hopefully to maybe 1,000 and 10 times more, 400 probably within the next years.
It's an exponential curve. So maybe 10x might be beyond all of us, but it's 2x. 2x is huge.
And so, what happens when this happens?
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
And it's probably changing the world at some point. Yeah.
But like, for example, autonomous vehicles, that comes from this. Another one is like people, like, for example, there's a frequent misunderstanding of AI is like, oh my God, it's going to cause climate change because of electricity. It's like, well, actually, in fact, if you're applying intelligence with electricity, all of a sudden it'll load balance all of your appliances. So your washing machine will go on at 2 in the morning, you know, as opposed to, you know, 7 p.m. because it'll be, oh, this is where it's cheaper. This is where we're not putting extra load on the grid in terms of happening. Grids will be made more efficient. New ways of running power centers and data centers. Matter of fact, when Google applied its AI to its own data center and they run highly efficient data centers, they found a 40% savings in electricity there. So that
40%.
Yes. So that's the kind of thing that
I mean,
will become.
you're talking about data centers that are, I mean,
that are already really optimized.
Yeah.
Yes.
And but really, they use a lot of electricity.
Yes.
It's not just a small. Like if you're talking about my washing machine, it's just okay. If it's the whole world, but still at the end,
But everyone's washing machines, everyone's microwaves, everyone's like it's like there's a lot. Everyone's and their HVAC. You know, the heating and cooling systems use a lot of. What if you made those more efficient? What if you invent new materials using AI that has new forms of insulation and to deploy those? There's all these different, if you can do the containment on fusion such that you can pull carbon out of the atmosphere and decarbonize and move the clock back to a greener, healthier planet. All of these things are things that can be done with AI. And it's one of the reasons why I like this, the kind of the AI stuff is so important. Now, coding to the thing is one of the accelerants in this. But this is the kind of thing, and I know this will blow a lot of your French listeners' minds, even though it tends to be the entrepreneurs and the technologists and other people who listen to this. Like, we're moving to a world where every individual person has a coding co-pilot, a coding assistant, that when you're thinking about doing something, like you're thinking about like, well, how should I think about, kind of planning my vacation, right? You might actually, even in addition to using an agent to asking about it, you might say, well, actually, in fact, I want to run the following kind of code to analyze, like my particular thing is that I love, kind of the cultural experiences that go around the slow food moment and the creation of kind of slow food. All right, I'm going here. Well, what are the things that I should do in order to really fully explore that? And there might be information that's on the internet that we couldn't find, but
it takes too much time.
But our assistant, our AI assistant, could run the deep research and the query, and then all of a sudden you're calling a farmer who opens up on afternoons. Tuesday afternoons, they do a kind of a here's the farm to table kind of thing. And you're saying, hey, I'm going to change my trip to come there on Tuesday. Will you be open, Tuesday a month from now? Can I come do that? And it's a human connection. It's about all these.
I want to go where nobody goes, for example, kind of request. Yeah. Yes. When I'm thinking about coding, I would say it's in the past 6 months, what I feel like is that it's working very well on the two extreme parts. That's vibe coding at the very beginning. So I'm like you. I mean, during my holidays, I spend so much time on vibe coding, and at the other extreme part is the how do you call that? When you use AI to double check your coding. What is it called? The
quality assurance.
Yeah, quality control and so on. So I was listening to Steve Jobs a few months ago saying it's like about 30% of Microsoft coding teams that are not replaced, but improved by AI, or 30% code, but it was mainly quality control.
Yes.
Am I right if I say that in between the very beginning and the very end, there is still, it's not that much efficient, or can it be very efficient all the way around? I mean, can you code AI with AI?
Fundamentally, it's already happening a little. So it's happening a little with how you're improving what is known as chain of thought and that iteration of chain of thought. It's happening a little on the AI coders are using AI agents to help them accelerate and do things. So I think there's a double-digit percentage of the code that gets entered in that is AI enabled. Now, I don't think any of the quality people are just checking in the code from the AI without looking at it. Part of the reason why, kind of QA and test harnesses is a heavy use because it's It helps you accelerate and then uses it just the same way that when I might put in a essay and say critique it, it's put in a code and critique it and cross-check it for all kinds of things. But on the other hand, there's a lot of use of, like, for example, when I start thinking, I do a sequence of prompts and put them in. People are going, okay, I want to generate a set of code that does this, and you'll get a generation of code. And then you'll look at it, you'll work with the agents and other human beings in order to improve it. So I actually think, in fact, it's being accelerated all along. It may be lumpy, but there will be acceleration in every stage of it.
Which one is the best? Is it Anthropic or on the coding or?
So currently, I think, and I actually even have this from, because I ask everybody, I ask, Google people and I ask everyone else, I ask the Microsoft people. Currently, the two best are Claude Code, which is productized and everything to work well, and then GPT-5 in terms of its reasoning and its capability. So if you put those two together, you currently have the best.
Interesting. I didn't use Anthropic that much recently, but I should.
Claude Code for coding environment. Yes.
Okay. Gemini. We use Gemini for text. It's pretty interesting also. And
but I hear actually from Google people that they prefer ChatGPT and Claude Code for the coding side.
Very interesting.
For science, Gemini is actually the best of the models. So if you're actually researching deep science, the Gemini models are the best.
That's fascinating. What about vibe coding? I was talking about Anton I've met yesterday, Anton Osika from lovable.dev. Did you try those?
I haven't used Lovable yet, although I think I'm meeting Antoine very soon.
Yeah.
I'm planning on trying it before I meet him. So, but one of the things that people learn is like, I've gotten a lot of people into vibe coding and they're like, wait, it's not that easy yet. Of course it's not that easy yet. We're in the very early days. It's a little bit like we've just invented the car and it's a little creaky in some places and things you have to learn, but you're beginning to see it.
Yeah, but still we're using this on Squarespace too, or which is one of my sponsors. But on what we do is we use the ChatGPT project mode for months for like our projects. And then we ask it, get me a prompt to create a website on Squarespace. And then boom, like it takes 5 minutes and it works.
Yes.
I mean, pretty well. It's very easy at the end, I would say.
And also people on track this is the acceleration.
Yeah.
Because you prompt it and you get it immediately. And sure, sometimes you have to fix it, but it's.
Yeah. The hard part is when you have to put some API stuff and plug in stuff is more is harder.
But like, for example, just for your everyday users, go use your favorite whether it's Gemini or Copilot or ChatGPT. You're trying to figure out how to use something. Take a picture of it and ask, how do I use this? Right. When I was in an Airbnb earlier this year, I just never encountered a 2-in-1 washing machine before. I had never seen one. It's always washing machine, dryer.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So I took a picture of it and said, how do I use this? And it told me right away. Like literally almost any device, it's there now.
This changes, I mean, so much for so many people. I'm thinking about tutorials, online tutorials, on YouTube or written. I mean, it's crazy, insane. What is the latest investment you've made that, you're like, wow, this one is. Well,
so the absolute latest is still stealth. So I'm sorry, I can't talk about it. Right. I promise I'll bring it up next we talk when it's not in stealth. The one before that was Manus, right? So how do we get the same kind of acceleration we get in coding? How can we get that in terms of drug development and deployment? I mean, cancer kills everyone, kills young people, kills old people, kills, men, women, every race, every country. And so, and part of the thing that people don't realize is even though we have one word for it, there's thousands of cancers. It's the uncontrolled cell growth. And so there isn't, unfortunately, just one cure. So you have to understand the specifics, but that's precisely the kind of thing that AI can be a great accelerant of. And what's more, not only can we can we potentially cure cancer? But also there's a lot of what is known as rare diseases or orphan diseases, a lot of diseases where the economics don't work for the drug industry to create something. Well, everything from using AI, which is happening with every cure, a nonprofit in the U.S., to say, well, there are maybe some current drugs that kind of make a difference there, and that's awesome. And AI can be super good, but also creating, that's Manus, creating new drugs for diseases that as yet have no therapeutics, have no cures, and obviously this will really matter.
The question was maybe stupid, but is it going to work? I mean, the question is, we had
there is no if. There's only when.
Yeah. You're right. I think we had on this podcast a guy called Thomas Klosel. His company is based in Switzerland called Hawkins. It's pretty big in the area, and but still he was telling us like the development period for drugs is probably cut in half, up to 10 times, but it's still pretty long, and there is still a lot of FDA approvals and stuff like this. So it's still very long. Also, on an administrational point of view, can we make all of it, even the administration, shorter? I mean,
well, eventually, yes. But it is one of the things where we, as a private companies and as startups, are advancing the ball a lot. We can advance the ball in the speed and precision and intensity of what we're doing. Of course, eventually, you'll want to have the regulators also using AI. Not just for speed, which of course, by the way, so why do you want speed? Well, if you get a cancer cure out a month earlier, you're saving lives.
Yeah, probably right? My dad's, my cousins. I mean, some real
so speed matters, and it's not just for the industry. It's for society. It's for people, but also accuracy, right? Like, it's just like we were talking about quality, quality control, quality assurance. Well, actually, in fact, AI can help with that too on the drug side. And part of the thing is what you have in these modern companies is you're reinventing the entire process from beginning to end. Now, some of it is not within the company's control, e.g., FDA regulatory process. But obviously, once countries generalize from not just having public services like, kind of like, hey, fixing potholes or lights or other kinds of things, or getting your driver's license renewal, all of which is low-hanging fruit, should be done, but start saying, hey, all of our society should start running the public services through the acceleration of AI. Then it just creates an enormous elevation in the quality of human life.
You're so right. Those low-hanging fruit, I wasn't thinking about this, but the driving license renewal, I mean, this is so, like, if you could not wait, like just have it boom like this. That would be so much better. Yeah.
You can accelerate all bureaucracy with AI today.
Oh my God, that would be so much better. I don't know if bureaucracy is worse in Europe or in the US.
Bad, and bureaucracy is generally speaking, when people say, I'm a bureaucrat, you're like, well, don't identify that way.
Do some people say that? Yeah?
Yes, some do.
Still? Yeah.
Yes,
oh my God.
Civil servant. Civil servant.
Civil servant. So the French president is asking you about how we can help his people with the tech and AI. If I take a private European company and I'm asking you the same question, what should I do with AI, or what are my next step? What should I be obsessed about now?
Well, so most people, not everyone, most people look for excuses not to do the hard work of trying it. They'll say, oh, I think it uses too much electricity. Oh, I'm not sure what data was trained on.
I don't have time.
Oh, I don't have time. Oh, it's an American thing, not a French thing.
I'll ask my assistant or my staff to do it, yeah.
Just tons of mistakes. And the short answer is everyone. Doesn't matter if you're a receptionist, doesn't matter if you're a CEO, everyone should be trying it.
Even my father and mother, retired people, everyone.
Everyone.
100%.
Right? And trying it for things that matter to you. Now, if you start with, hey, look, I'm just starting, fine. Like, make a sonnet for your friend, right? Point your camera at your refrigerator and say, with these ingredients, what are the different recipes I might make for dinner? Great, start that way, no harm, like just kind of dipping your fingers into the pond. But then start trying to use it for things that really matter to you, how you work, that matter how do you make decisions. I'll give you an example. A close friend of mine was hiking in the Adirondacks. There are mountains in New England. And his cousin that he was hiking with had a medical issue, so they went to a hospital. And the doctor said, "Oh no, you're fine. Here, take some antibiotics. You'll be okay." My friend was like, didn't sound right, so went to ChatGPT for a second opinion. ChatGPT told my friend, "Take your cousin to another hospital right now." Right. So they got in the car, drove to another hospital. They got to that hospital, and that hospital said, "Well, we're glad you got here. If you got here 2 hours later, you'd be dead. There's nothing we could do for you."
Wow.
Right. So using it for a second opinion, because by the way, it's great as a second opinion. You get your first opinion from your doctor. And by the way, doctors should be using it for a second opinion too. It's like, because you're strict, you go, oh, well, if I think X and the AI thinks Y, let's get a third opinion Z and track. And that's the kind of thing where already today it's there. And in this case, literally, the example I just gave, life and death. And so, but for me, like I use it to research technologies and understand things, to do due diligence on companies and investing, to think about how do I do literature review to understand what we're doing with Monas AI and drug discovery.
Personal stuff? Do you use it for coaching?
You can.
Do you use it for personal stuff?
I should try it. I haven't, partially because one of the pleasures of the fortune of my life is I have a lot of people who help and give advice.
What I'm saying is that personal, I'm thinking
even coaches. Like I have some great coaches.
Yeah, okay.
Right? But I should do that some. I think it'd be interesting. I definitely use it for, like for example, when I'm looking at, like for example, one of the things I think is part of where the modern world's going to go is, I haven't met a blood test I don't like. I will try every single blood test, right? Because blood test is easy. I actually think getting medical information. Well, you feed your blood test into the AI, which I do, and say, explain this all to me. And I use that as a way of kind of understanding.
So cool, yeah.
And I think this is where we're all going. Like, for example, think about having, your smartwatch doing all kinds of monitoring and kind of saying, hey, here's the thing that you might want to consider, or, oh, maybe you're dehydrated right now. You should have some more water, et cetera. This is all, like part of like a very humanity positive way of doing this. I
have tried, but a long time ago. I haven't made it to the point where with my, I use a Garmin, but
yes.
Like thousands of data I have for the past 3 years,
yes.
And ask it to make me some good advices. But yeah. What I find interesting is that some of my friends are really using it to, one of them is just to get advices for how to behave with her ex-husband,
yes.
Or how to behave with your new boyfriend, yes. Or girlfriend, and so on. And the personal use is interesting. So what you're saying is that use it, even if you're like a big guy in tech, like yes. A big boss or entrepreneur, and then you'll find ways to use it more and put it in your
yes.
business. And
yeah, even if you find some uses don't work, maybe they don't work yet. Maybe they don't work because you haven't prompted it the right way. And maybe, it just, okay, that doesn't work. There are other uses that do work. And by the way, on this particular topic, the company I founded before Matthieu was Inflection AI, and its AI assistant, Pi, P-I, the mm-hmm. English pun intended, there's nothing better than Pi, personal intelligence. We trained it to be very good on EQ, right?
Yeah,
so we actually find, yes,
yeah,
exactly. We find that people actually using Pi when they're having a discussion with their loved one, because Pi can go, oh, when you said this, did you mean this? Right? Because that's part of what we learn is like, don't say, you're wrong. You say, oh, I heard you, and
And
maybe
I agree 100% on what you say.
and maybe I have a different perspective that would be useful to talk about.
I can see you have good people around you.
Yes, yes.
Should we be obsessed also by sovereignty? I mean, what I'm thinking is we love all of that we talked about earlier on, and somehow the excuses you made with what's happening right now from an American perspective, it's a bit scary for us here. It's just saying, I mean, in my business, I don't care. But if you're Airbus or, I don't know, Safran or like Thales in the tech or in defense area, or even big companies competing with American companies, I would not put that on ChatGPT or Gemini or all of this, even though it's hosted in Europe. Like there is hosting, there is computing, there is law. I wouldn't feel comfortable. Should that be an obsession for European entrepreneurs to get back some of or to create our own technologies?
Well, I think it's very valuable. That's part of the reason why I write the books I do the podcast I do, I come on podcasts like your excellent podcast, this one, is I want as many places learning from Silicon Valley across Europe and creating that. And I think it's awesome to create amazing technologies, tech companies, et cetera here. And it's part of why, when I come to Paris this time, I have 2 meetings, and one of them is this one, the other one with Macron. And so, because it's trying to help. And so I think that's very important. And I do think that notions of digital sovereignty are very important, but it's also important to be smart about it. So, for example, one perspective could say, well, if we don't train our own AI model from scratch, then it simply doesn't work. And it's like, well, actually, that could put you in a very limited perspective because, part of what the hyperscaler US companies are doing are creating, data centers and computers that are tens of billions of dollars in creating it. And maybe that doesn't work here. Yeah. You say, well, then the game over is, no, it's not game over. There's all kinds of things you can do. Like you can say, well, actually, in fact, where a lot of the AI applications matter to the society, matter to your industry, is the applications. So how do we deploy those applications? How do we get them to accelerate our industry? How do we get them to help our, engage with our customers, market to our customers better? And that's the thing that's going to matter. And by the way, we have to do it at speed. We have to do it early. We have to be early adopters, not late adopters. You could be what we're going to do is there's going to be a variety of models. We'll make sure that those models are provisioned equally to French citizens, French industry, et cetera, that they're not just available, the hyperscalers are building them, but they're deployed in ways that are consonant with our culture, our values, et cetera, here. And that's, of course, totally doable. So it doesn't mean that everything has to be invented de novo from scratch here. It's just like, for example, when I'm creating a company, like I'm creating Manas, I don't create all my own AI models. I go, ooh, I could use that one that's open source. I can use that one from this other company. It's the same kind of thing.
But if they're American and we're European and we have some irrational dude, not saying who I'm talking about, saying, now it's going to be 50% more expensive because it's going to be that way. At some point, you're like, I have to get my own AI here around.
The American idiom is make sure you're not rug pulled, right? So the rug pulled out from underneath you. And that is absolutely something that every European country should do. And that's part of what I've been out here helping provide perspective and strategy and advice on. And I think that's important to do. Because it's massively important to embrace AI early, but it's also massively important to not be dependent upon political whims for your continuity of your use. But I think that's a solvable problem.
Okay, very interesting. If I go to Reid Hoffman, I just project myself when you were like 20. I think many people in the entrepreneurial area, they're like, yeah, I get this vibe coding, AI, it's big, but what should I do? I mean, what should I dig do you have ideas? What would you do if you were there? If you had time, not that much of money, no money, but a lot of time.
Yes.
What would you do? Right.
Well, there are tons of AI assistants that are available for free, right, including coding. And this is actually part of the advice that I give young people, because there's a meme that's going around, and I think there's unevenness. It's like, oh, maybe young people aren't being hired as much because of AI. It's actually not that. It's actually, so far, it's actually the pandemic. It's actually the recovery from the pandemic, and industries that overhired are now, including tech companies, are now rebalancing and all the rest. It's still difficult for young people. But you go, well, in an AI universe, what should a young person do? Well, the answer is they should show up to a company saying, I'm AI native. I'm Generation AI. I know how to use this. I can help you with it. And by the way, companies, very interested in that. Marketing, sales, company operations, finance, legal, like product development, service delivery. AI touches all of this. It's very important. And so, great, you understand this. How do you bring it in that's useful? That's the advice I give people. So if you happen to say, well, I got some time, you don't need money. You need connectivity. You need to be able to engage with these AI agents, but they're the best learning system created in human history.
So what you're saying is, like, if possible, spend your $25 on ChatGPT or anything else, and spend like 5-10 hours a day, and use that to sell your own expertise.
And by the way, you can do it even not spending $25. All of these AI models are free. And if you run out of, okay, ChatGPT said, nope, you have to pay now. Switch over to Copilot. Oh, Copilot. Okay, switch over to Gemini. Okay, switch over to Claude. There's tons of these, and you can do that all just with your internet or mobile connection.
Who's the smartest person you've met, Reid?
Well, so this will sound like I'm weaseling out of the answer, but I'm not. I actually think that I meet tons of amazing, smart people. One of the delights I have of my life is I meet people that I learn from all the time. And so, this morning, when meeting with Macron, that was with, my friends Eric Schmidt, Kevin Scott, James Manika, amazing intelligences, because we're trying to assemble the how do we help and kind of what do we do. My co-founder at Inflection, Mustafa Suleyman, who now works at Microsoft, my co-founder at Manas, Siddhartha Mukherjee, the author of the best, it's called Emperor of All Maladies, like literally the book, if you haven't read a book on general to understand cancer.
Say it again.
The Emperor of All Maladies.
Okay.
Right, and malade, but that will be the same in French, the French title, and it is an amazing book. And by the way, I think he's updated it. I actually think in December it's coming out with 5 new chapters of kind of what's been learned since then.
We'll put the reference in the show notes.
And by the way, Sid is just a genius when it comes to sideways thinking about medicines and pharmaceuticals. I mean, that's how Manas got created, because I was thinking, what could AI be used for? It could be used for drug discovery. Let me go talk to Sid. I didn't realize we were going to go found a company. It was just literally, it was like, tell me about drug discovery and how it's working. And this is why I think AI. And he's like, well, I brought cancer drugs to market. I'm like, no, I didn't know that. He's like, and this could be the amazing life's work. Let's do it.
I was thinking when I heard you and your friends with the president right now this morning, you came in. If I was a French journalist, I would think, which I'm not, I think it's a good thing, but I would think, I mean, who pays for the travel? Why are they here? What is their own agenda? Do you guys have a personal agenda doing this? Well,
what I would say is when I'm asked to help collaborate, the way you make sure you identify where you have an agenda and you're explicit and honest and transparent about it. So, of course, given that we made sure that both Google and Microsoft, there are people employed. It was like, look, these are the company's agendas, but we're fundamentally here to help, right? So, we're not flying over to lobby. We're not trying to get regulation changed for company 1 or company 2 in any of this stuff. It's just like, look, here's how we're operating. Now, part of when you providing this kind of guidance and intelligence, part of what happens is say, oh, great, we now understand how to be smart about how we'd want to apply regulation, or how we'd, like when we say, for example, one of the things that came up, that because France has been extremely smart over decades about nuclear power, about its grid management, it's like, oh, we actually have a lot of green energy. We could use that to our advantage in engaging with companies and getting investment in France and getting, kind of things that help us with our digital sovereignty. And that's win-win.
Yeah,
right?
Things we could do here and nowhere else. And,
yes.
Okay. Yeah, very interesting. So you were Eric Schmidt, and you yourself, the retired from one from Google and you from Microsoft.
Well, I'm not retired. I'm still on the board.
No, I know. But, but you're not. I'm saying active. You're
yes.
on the board. Yeah.
Yes.
Have you ever been on the? Do I dream, or have you ever been on the board of OpenAI?
I was.
Point?
Yes.
So there is a little friction or worry. People are worried. I would say at LinkedIn, at least, you're the company you created, with that announcement a few weeks ago where OpenAI said they will launch, a recruitment or job thing. Have you heard about this? What do you think about that?
Well, the first I heard about it was the announcement. Yeah. So I know the same thing you do. And actually, in fact,
OpenAI jobs platform.
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was on the board. I'm an investor in OpenAI. I think it's an amazing company, amazing leadership, friends with many of them. But, and from my LinkedIn perspective, and I say this is part of the culture of LinkedIn, we welcome every additional great tool that can help people get jobs and get employed. That is awesome. We want there to be as many as possible. That would be great. And this is one of the great things about capitalism and competition helps us pick up our game, right? So like all the LinkedIn people looked at the same announcement, said, oh, are we using AI the smart ways we could be? Should we be doing it better, et cetera? That is just great. Yeah. So I think far from creating tension, it creates let's make sure we're doing this the right way.
I love the spirit. Yeah, so it's not being in that position where I'm going to be disrupted, but how can I not be disrupted?
Yes, how can I learn to do this even better?
Amazing. It's amazing, and it's very deep because the two companies are so tight, so yes. it's kind of weird.
By the way, within OpenAI and Microsoft, there's a whole bunch of areas where they collaborate and compete at the same time.
Yeah, it's true. And it will have to be that way anyway. Is Microsoft good at AI if you take away OpenAI?
It is. Not just because Mustafa Suleyman is there, but Kevin Scott, who's the CTO of Microsoft, was the primary driver of the kind of OpenAI, Microsoft, kind of strategic partnership when OpenAI was really small and no one even knew what it was. And by the way, that's part of what allowed OpenAI to become the powerhouse that it is today. Like without that partnership, OpenAI wouldn't be here being that partnership, being that powerhouse.
But if you unplug OpenAI from Microsoft?
Oh yeah, no, I understand the question. So, so one, we're not, thank you. We're not, that unplugging is no time soon. Two, Mustafa and Kevin have some very smart AI people operating within Microsoft. Now, it always, like one of the things that's always kind of the tension is not, I don't mean tension as an emotional and everything else, but it happens in Microsoft, it happens in Google, it happens in Amazon. There's such intense demand for the compute. Who gets the compute? Does OpenAI get the compute? Does Mustafa's group get the compute? Yeah. Does Scott Guthrie's group get the compute? And the same thing happens at Google. Same thing happens at Amazon.
There is a real compute battle.
Yes. Because by the way, Microsoft could take all of its compute and with its orders from enterprise companies, apply them all there. But of course, needs to be using it for its own development. Now, the technical capability, there's some amazing people working at Microsoft. So yes, that capability is there. But it's balancing out those compute allocations, which is the ongoing thing. And by the way, the same thing is happening at Google. The same thing is happening at Amazon. So this is one of the things that people understand is like the desire for this compute and using this compute, there is what we say, and of course nothing's infinite, but there's the equivalent of infinite demand.
Interesting. I could spend hours, asking you also for because we talked about big companies in Europe, smaller, like young entrepreneurs. I could ask in the middle, but it would be more or less the same answer, I would say, with just go on AI much more and try harder, and you'll understand how to figure out for your business. Let's get back a couple of minutes on the content part, because what you've tried, it was actually, I would say, on possibles with your Reid AI was hilarious, I believe. So I think it was probably the launch of this Reid AI. You tell me where you want to go with that, but you asked it on what is it, blitzscaling, right?
Yes.
Can you just explain blitzscaling in one sentence for like a very smart person?
Yes.
Then for what was it, 5 years old, yeah, maybe. And then for with the humorist, what was his name? Yeah, Jerry Seinfeld. You remember? Yeah.
Yes.
And then it's explaining with the world. It's amazing. So you've built an AI,
yes,
from your books, from your knowledge, from all of the content we have on Reid's. How do you compete with Reid AI? How do you sleep at night, Reid?
But actually part of the benefit of having created this kind of first digital avatar, or early digital avatar, first one, is Reid AI has given talks at conferences that I haven't gone to. Reid AI has given interviews to journalists. So expanding bandwidth.
Good enough?
Good enough, yes, absolutely, yeah. Right. It's not everything. I still have some unique edges. I partner with Reid AI.
Well, if I ask you what percentage of what you would have given was there, would it be 80?
Well, so I would say it's 95% of the basic stuff.
Okay.
Right. So if you say, hey, give some pointers about entrepreneurship, or say something about how AI will help amplify human creativity or human quality of human life, the basic stuff, it'll get right. Where it's still, there's a lot that I add in, is where is the understanding of what things really matter as you strategically plot the future. So, for example, Reid AI with the AI model say, well, there's real concern with energy usage of AI. And it won't have gotten, because it'll have learned that from all the discussion, but it won't have gone, actually, in fact, that's just listening to the critics when the critics are wrong. That actually, in fact, figuring out how to make grids more efficient, how to have more efficient power, how to make all use of electricity much more efficient. AI is going to be massively positive on all of these fronts. It doesn't know how to be edgy that way. And that's part of the thing where I bring in something that is useful.
Plus, we want to have it kind of right and probably
yes.
politically correct, more
yes.
or less.
Yes.
So it's probably on the edges. You
yes.
cannot go
yes.
out of borders,
yeah.
right?
So it's great at providing all that basic thing, but when you bring in that extra expertise, that cutting edge thought, etc., that's still one of the places that I and other people are, useful.
Is there a day when the podcast between Matt's AI and Reid's AI will be interesting, or not interesting, like fantastic?
So the answer is certainly yes, and certainly soon. But that doesn't mean that the podcast between the two of us doesn't also continue to be very interesting. So, for example, you could have that our AIs doing one particular thing. And by the way, among the amazing things that they can switch between languages and do all this other stuff. But also, that doesn't mean that there isn't also what's the human experience we're having with this? That would still be useful for you and I to be doing.
One advice to everyone listening: what should we do before the end of 2025?
Well, we've covered engage with AI and seriously. Now, maybe the next piece of that is these AIs are great role takers. So like one of the things that I do is say, hey, help me improve my thinking. If I think this, what are some questions I should ask myself? What are some things I should learn about? And that will help you learn and be better.
What about we understood you have your own problems in the US. You know, we have our own here in France. What about the state of mind we have to be in? What about your state of mind? I mean, how do you deal with it? And how should I deal with it?
So we are living in increasing turmoil, volatility, chaos, and crisis. And it's going to get worse. It's like everyone hopes that this is the worst, and it's going to get worse. So navigate uncertainty, right? So you can use AI to that. You can use your friends for that. You have to plan for an uncertain environment. That's okay to plan for an uncertain environment. And look for, this is one of the things that's good about entrepreneurship, when things are changing, where can things be created that create opportunity for goodness? Whether, in entrepreneurship, a product or service, in life, an opportunity, in society. It's good to refactor bureaucracy. So maybe it's being refactored in a very bad way, but that still gives you an opportunity to say, okay, well, like, what are the things that we can do with these, challenges to make a better life?
Don't be anxious, be aware and keep pushing.
Yes. And be aware that things will be challenging, but in challenge, that's part of also what creates opportunity for you.
Okay. I asked last time, but I'm going to ask another time. A book you would recommend for everyone reading?
I can't remember if I gave this, since we talked a lot about AI. I'm not sure, but A Brief History of Intelligence by Max Bennett.
All right. We'll double check.
Yes.
And I'll recommend you actually a book we've had from, Carlos Ghosn. Have you ever heard about this? He's the former CEO of Renault Nissan. And he's the guy who flew from Japan.
Yes, I know.
Actually, I think we should really translate this episode with our friends at 11 Labs, because this is a masterpiece. And a guy, so he's stuck in Lebanon now. Yes. He's stuck. He chose. But he recommended a great book. Do you have it somewhere? The book it shows. And well, before we go, all go on Reid Hoffman's channel on YouTube if you speak English. Yes. If you don't, you go on Reid Riffs. That's going to be the name on
Possible.fm.
Possible.fm.
Yes.
And we can find it on Spotify, probably Apple Podcasts, everywhere. Deezer for French people.
You know this line, everywhere you prefer to listen to your podcast.
Okay. The Road Less Traveled. Have you ever read that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah.
That's an old book.
Yeah, it's an old book.
It's an old book.
Everybody comes back to me and says, wow, masterpiece.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. We will follow Reid Hoffman.
Yes.
You have to accept me on LinkedIn. I want to be accepted by Reid Hoffman.
1,000%.
Okay.
Yes.
And then being friend with Mark Zuckerberg, Reid Hoffman, and what's his name on Twitter? The founder of
founder, that's Jack Dorsey.
Jack Dorsey, that's the best.
Yes,
thing
Jack's great.
Yeah. Thank you, Reid, for your time. And next time you come around, we'll find a way to grab a beer.
We will do this again.
See you guys. Thanks, Sue. And if you're new to this podcast, we have a couple of great episodes in English. We'll put them in the show notes. Recently, we had the chance to host Brian Chesky.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome, actually. Yeah. It was amazing. And a lot of other episodes with James Dyson. I could give you many of them, but if you excuse my French and my French accent, then maybe you'll be happy to listen to those guys. Bye.
Yes, we like French accents.
Thank you very much. Bye, guys.